Hey there, welcome to episode 64 of the FFS Talk audio program. I'm your host, Dan Hugo. We are recording this late in the evening on Thursday, February 13, 2025. It is very nearly 11 o'clock at night, 11 p.m. Today's episode, we will be speaking about response. It is a continuation of the Crowd Wisdom series as we lead to the part 2 finale of Crowd Wisdom. The FFS audio program is designed to be a forum of sorts, a discussion to talk about what works, what doesn't, and what we can do about it. These supplementary episodes, I'm not sure if we really get to the what we can do about it part. That'll be for the end, for the finale, Crowd Wisdom. But generally speaking, it would be great to have a guest on. These have mostly been audio essays solo, but to discuss what works, what doesn't, and what we can do about it from different perspectives. And so most of the episodes, if not all, are basically laying the groundwork for future discussions with those who have something to say on a variety of topics. Crowds and the wisdom of crowds, certainly topical of late, given the nature of the world, social media, geopolitics, local politics, etc., etc. So this hopefully will be an interesting topic for future discussions as well. Hopefully wherever you found this audio program, you're able to locate the episode description, which contains the show notes. I will read the summary. There are a few links that are relevant to today's episode, the 2 shameless self-promotion, and 4 additional references. So let's get on with it. The summary of today's episode is one last supplementary episode in the Crowd Wisdom series, a brief dive into the response to reaction. When there is a tumult amongst the crowd and the target of, gotta get those glasses checked. The target of aggression has something to say to correct the record. Does that even matter? So in other words, the crowd hears something, learns something, probably on YouTube or who knows where. There's a reaction. The initial news is shared and reshared. There's a reaction. The reactions are shared and reshared. And at some point, there has to be some sort of a response, like, "Excuse me, that's not really true," but it may be too late. That's basically what we're talking about today. It doesn't even matter. Is it ever heard? As I mentioned, the links for today's episode include the shameless self-promotion 2 links. One, buymeacoffee.com/DanHugo. 2, ko-fi.com, ko-fi.com/DanHugo. Buymeacoffee.com/DanHugo profile page includes links to all of my audio productions, various GitHub projects, a little bit of biographical information, my favorite coffee beans, at least one affiliate link. Maybe there'll be another one. I got to check into that. You're under no obligation to spend any money, by the way, at either of these self-promotion websites. Buy Me a Coffee does include the possibility of hosting audio programs there. So I do post on Mondays exclusively on buymeacoffee.com. Buy me an update. You can find that via the posts link, which is at the top of the page. I have a link to it in the profile information at the top of the profile section. And then I have, the episodes are available at the bottom of that very page. So if you do follow the link to buymeacoffee.com/DanHugo, you can scroll all the way down, or you can click on because they link to the recent posts, or you can go to the posts section, which is linked at the very top of the page, and it's sort of a navigation bar, or within my profile at the very top of that. So check them out. 5 minutes or less, posted on Mondays. What did you miss last week? What's coming up this week? Buy me an update on buymeacoffee.com/DanHugo. ko-fi.com/DanHugo does not support these sorts of things, so I've been posting some textual updates there. Both of these platforms are usually used by content creators and open source developers and others with tools and methods and creative works and who knows what, content ways to engage their communities, their audiences, their users. So I've been using both of these for some time now. I don't really use them for financial gain, although I will remind, as I say often, not only no obligation, but if anyone does choose to throw some tips in the tip jar there, those funds do go towards coffee or coffee accessories, devices to make coffee, which does power most of what I'm doing. There's a Churchill version of a famous quote, and let me see if I can pull that up. No, my computer crashed earlier. Oh no.
Here are some results.
Computer, stop. Never have Amazon in the same room with you when you're doing stuff. Long story, computer has small issue, browser resyncing its bookmark database. But basically, Churchill has said, but so has Mark Twain and so many others. So I have a link to the Brainy Quote website that has his version of it, and so I'll have to go from memory. Wait, do I have to go from memory? Let me see this here. I think if I just do this, no. It's the truth travels around the world as a lie travels around the world as the truth is putting its pants on. Let me see if that's the actual quote. Sorry for all the clicking. A lie gets halfway around the world before the truth has a chance to get its pants on. So that's the Winston Churchill version. Older versions have usually putting its boots on, so there are variations of this over the years. It's generally true. A lie is salacious, more titillating, gets out. People share it and whatnot. And when the truth comes out, it's usually not as exciting. So, the other version is more exciting, more interesting, more clicky. So you end up with the wrong story spreading more quickly and easily than the truth. Google Calendar holiday removals. That's the example I'm going to use today. If you've seen it in the press, in the media, in the news, people have been talking about it, angry about it. I think it came out yesterday, maybe the day before, maybe February 11 or 12, depending on where you're looking. So I have a link to the Independent, theindependent.com. When I searched for this, I found Forbes, USA Today, etc. So you can choose any media outlet that you prefer. They probably have something to say about this. This one was in their World News for the Americas. That's us. So Google, and I'll quote the headline in case it changes, but you can click here. It's that Google Calendar removed several special events or months recognition. I guess they're holidays. I don't know exactly what to call. Like Pride Month is not truly a holiday, but it is a recognition. Generally agreed upon. I think it's an international designated month of recognition. There's Black History Month is in February also, or is February, and so on. So Google removed these from their, there's a holiday calendar that is a part of your Google Calendar experience that you can have displayed as part of your normal calendar. I think it's just called holidays. Disclaimer, I do use Google services, and also disclaimer, I am not a fan of Google. Quite the opposite, actually, but they're sort of the necessary evil for some things. I would like it to be fewer things. So link to that, and we'll get to the headline and the subtext and some of the circumstances of this particular article. I did not investigate all articles, but I suspect it's going to be similar. The headline is very exciting, which we'll get to. Google statement on holiday removals. So Google has posted to their blog, because everybody reads blogs, Google has posted to their blog their response to the changes in cultural moments, I think they call it. Yeah. So the changes that they made to the Google Calendar platform. And so we'll get to that too. And then finally, a Flood the Zone Wiktionary entry. So Wiktionary does like slang and how people are using words incorrectly sometimes as slang. But flood the zone is an expression that President Trump's associate Steve Bannon has been using since I think the first term several years ago. Flooding the zone means non-stop announcements, activities, talking a lot, so that you're always keeping transcribers and reporters and social media busy trying to figure out what's going on. And then before they can do that, there's another round of flooding and so on. So It's interesting to see that basically what you do is you generate reaction without time for response. I think that's the stated goal. That's exactly how Steve Bannon describes it. Not using the word response, I think, but it's just to continuously keep people off their footing, so to speak, especially people in the media, and that keeps the audience, the readership, the crowd riled up and energized. So, what is it? The the theory of flight that the Wright brothers posited was that an unstable aircraft is easier to maneuver. So certainly an unstable crowd is easier to steer. Speaking of tumult, when there's already an energized crowd, it is easier perhaps to throw some more fuel into that fire for whatever benefit. In the case of the press, it may be as simple as clickbait traffic, which is nothing new by any means. Sensational journalism has been around since pigments were spread on cave walls. So clickbait, you just want people to click on things that generates traffic, which helps your bottom line thanks to impression-based advertising. So more eyeballs is good. So sensational headlines get you more eyeballs, more clicks, more interest, more money. Tumult will often replace any sense of rationality with pure emotion, usually negative, which leads most away from following up on claims, even by credible or reasonably credible outlets, concerning incendiary matters. So this, as I said, there were Forbes and USA Today and other outlets, which are, you may prefer one or the other, but this was a commonly found headline for 12 February, and I think maybe 11 February. I think I may have started seeing it on the 11th, but it moved very quickly. And so are people checking? Are they even reading the articles? Probably not. It's very exciting to, I just saw this also. Hey, I just read that too. The headline. Yeah, not the article. No, the headline. A response, even a day or two later, is often difficult to find, especially in the modern social media landscape where the claim has already traveled around the world, so to speak. So the Google Calendar kerfuffle. Let me see if good. Okay. So I got my tabs back here. So there is a claim made by several press outlets. As I mentioned, I selected one of those many here that Google has in its Google Calendar platform removed recognitions such as Pride Month. So they call them cultural moments. Pride Month, Black History Month, and so on. So Indigenous Peoples Day and some other like generally accepted, but I guess not legally official holidays. So some of them have been removed. In the included example, so that's the independent article that I've linked to and I described. It's linked in the link section. The headline is, or was if they changed it, so here's a quote, the headline quote, Google Calendar removes Black History Month and Pride Month because keeping them is, single quote, unsustainable, close single and double quotes, with a subheading, or tagline if you like, quote, tech giant continues to fall in line with Donald Trump's DEI crackdown, unquote. So within the article, there is so the beginning of the article is sort of basically fanning that flame. Within the article, further down, there's a reference to a Google spokesperson, and there's a link. Wait, let me look real quick here. It might be to the blog post. No, it's a link to the tag for Google content on the independent website. So, Google spokesperson claiming that changes were actually made in the middle of 2024. So there's an extended quote in the article. It extends a couple of like single sentence paragraphs that are the quote, but it is obviously interesting to note that this is not what is in the sensational, tumultuous headline. The headline could be, Google Calendar removed these cultural moments last year, not in response to DEI policies and changes. So clickbait, perhaps, right? It's very topical. The reaction of the crowd, which we talked about in last week's episode, in general, was predictable. Calls to boycott Google, claims of removal from phones of Google applications, closure of accounts, and so on. I was seeing these all day today. Not that I was spending a tremendous amount of time on social media, but especially if you go on Blue Sky, if you use Blue Sky, you're going to get this stuff. If you use Twitter, I don't know, you're going to get a totally different take on everything. It's good and bad, I guess. You could just avoid both. There is no research, no individual investigation to confirm, only outrage and, of course, resharing to provide a larger blast radius. So people are resharing or commenting on a reshare, and they're very angry. They're very frustrated. I just deleted my whole Google this and that. I'm going to switch to iPhone. Apple has made this. Apple made the. This is on top of the Google Maps change, by the way. So Apple made a similar change on the Apple Maps product to reflect the new administrative renaming of of Gulf of Mexico to Gulf of America. So this irked some people, and now calendar changes. Now, the renaming of the Gulf obviously took place very recently, but the calendar changes were made in 2024. Nobody researched that, so hey, may as well ride the wave of Google frustration. So people want to remove that. They're going to switch to Apple iPhone, and they're going to forget. I'm going to use. In fact, there were many claims they're using DuckDuckGo, which has its own problems. Since most people do not read articles, only headlines, even inclusion of the Google response in the article I provide as an example almost certainly goes unread. Nobody's reading that. The crowd is not wise. They are merely reactionary. The response, and this is actually worth reading if you can check out that Google blog post. It's not long. So I've linked to the Google response to this reporting as a blog post on their site. This is not going to grab much attention, of course, but it is their statement published on their own home turf, so they can own their statement. The content of the blog post is essentially the same as the spokesperson quotes in the example article I've linked to at the Independent, which makes sense. It's the official response. But since it does not come anywhere near matching the headline narrative, it goes below the fold and never gets seen. Ultimately, a large company such as Google will weather the storm. The negative feelings will subside over time. Perhaps some will ponder the Google response and consider it reasonable, as I have. By the way, though, I'm not a fan of Google for a variety of other reasons, which I've said. Their response is indeed reasonable, in my opinion, if they did perform this change several months ago. So I'm assuming it's correct or honest. But reason does not stand up to the anger of crowds, to be sure. So I'll tell you, spoiler alert, although again, I think it's worth flipping through the blog post. It's not very long. Essentially, Google Calendar is a calendar, and they started adding as a sort of a nice to have accessory sort of thing. Like, oh, I guess we can pull in holidays based on where the person is. I'm going to guess they use a time zone or something to say, oh, okay, you're in this country or you're in this region. There are some holidays that are not official. They're state holidays, for example. Here in Nevada, Family Day is one. So Nevada Day is another. These are not national holidays. So I believe the website is Time and Date, timesanddates.com. Let me see if I can find this here. Yeah, there it is. Timeanddate.com. So in mid-24, they made the decision to simplify and show only public holidays and national observances from timeanddate.com. So rather than adding the unrecognized or local or regional holidays or special occasions or recognitions, cultural, religious, and they're only going with, to keep it simple, because, as they say, they were being contacted quite a bit about the fact that they missed some. Hey, you don't have this holiday, you don't have that holiday. So then it becomes a question of, well, we'll always be missing holidays because we're not like actively seeking out this information. That's their claim. So yeah, the entire thing is, I don't know, if you're looking at this on your phone, it's probably one screen, or maybe a screen and a half's worth. It's not very long. It's one big paragraph and 2 bullet items. So very, very brief. So the take home is Google made this change based on the ability or resources or the time spent or the return on investment, or however you want to view it, in this feature that was sort of a ad hoc, nice to have, but was not standing up to the demands of the population. Like, where's my holiday? Where's my holiday? And this will happen, and anyone who's ever tried to do anything for anyone, there will be someone that says, well, what about me? Or how about this? Or why not this? Or why not that? And I'm not trying to make fun of that, but it can become unwieldy. Now, you could argue for a company like Google, they don't have enough people to do a couple of holiday updates, but then it becomes a question of maintenance and so on. So it's not an unreasonable response. One could argue that, oh, come on, this is something that you could totally automate. Well, the problem is nobody's going to read that. So they're only going to read these headlines. So it doesn't really matter if they have a reasonable response. Personally, I think anyone who has a special holiday could maintain that holiday on their calendar. And guess what? You can share that calendar with others. So if there were, say, a pride organization that wanted to maintain a collection of international pride holidays, they could create and publish a calendar using Google tools or any other standard CalDave or iCalendar compliant tools. There are tons of them. Outlook, Apple, Google, most calendar products support what's called CalDave. CalDave servers and iCalendar streams for sharing data. So if you subscribe to a Pride organization event calendar, if you like, or recognition calendar, you would have all of the Pride holidays that would be maintained by an organization who actually takes an active interest in maintaining those holidays. The state of Nevada could publish a calendar. It would probably have only a couple of dates, although they could actually maintain more, not necessarily just holidays, but business filing dates, whatever. They could do a whole number of things. Any state, any city, any county, any country, any region could create these calendars and maintain them. Guess what? They'll do a better job because they are actually interested in the calendar. The calendar. Google is interested in the calendar product, which has tons and tons, millions, billions, who knows, of users. And you have to try to keep all of them happy, which means none of them will be happy. So their response, I believe, is reasonable. And if it did, in fact, happen, this change in the way they're approaching the maintenance of this collection of cultural events, is that what the word was? Cultural moments. So if they're going to say, hey, we're just not going to support anything that isn't in timesanddates.com, that's a decision. If they made that decision in 2024, then it's clearly not a reaction to policy changes on the part of the current administration. Done. But that reaction, the reaction is not going to be calmed by this official response because it doesn't meet anybody's narrative. It's not confirming the aha, I knew it. Google is, it's just big tech, the tech bros and this and that. And now I'm not going to say that's not happening, but in this particular case, it's a data point where one could say, well, wait a minute, if they did change it last month, here's their reasoning, here's the source of their dates. You could say, hey, dates and times, why don't you add these other dates and times? But here the response doesn't really stand up to the reaction and the amplification of the reaction, and this amplification is taking place everywhere. So, and this is just an easy example, super easy. Calendar. Are the dates and times reflecting what I want to see in my holidays and cultural moments calendars? When did this change? Now I'm angry because of the reason I've been told it's changed. I'm not even interested in what the company has to say. I'm just going to be angry. And the crowd now becomes a little bit less wise. Why do all this? If one is looking for crowd wisdom, this is a strategy that can alter it. Shape it into a more or less useful form, depending on the circumstance. Why would headlines about something as simply verified as when this change was made to the calendar platform by Google, as in, well, the Google Calendar platform and when this change was made by Google, suggest something more interesting than what Google themselves does describe? So if you say they changed it as a result of this, and they say, well, actually, we changed it as a result of our not wanting to keep tracking and adding new holidays and cultural moments, which we don't want to keep track of. And again, others should keep track of these things. Google long ago gave up on trying to be the everything platform. They don't do a good job of it at all. And side note, Google removes and curtails services all the time. The Google Graveyard, I think it is. There's so many. Google Reader, anyone? Google Reader. That was a great blog reading service. They just said, nah, we're not going to do it anymore. So who knows why Google does some things? And who cares, really? Too much is being made of this, in my opinion. This may well be some sort of tithe on the part of the press to rile up the crowd. So they're trying to please the new administration by keeping the flames burning. Maybe some part of the so-called flood the zone strategy, which I mentioned previously, though this doesn't quite make sense. It's not really flooding the zone it's kind of flooding the zone in the opposite direction, right? Well, unless it's who knows? Who knows what the strategy is? Maybe it is just clickbait, plain and simple, riding the wave of frustration and anger generally flowing freely throughout the country and beyond. So why not pick on, Zuckerberg is an easy target, and I say throw your arrows at him too, but shoot them at him, I guess. Don't shoot anybody. But these are topics that are front of mind. It's easy. And again, the Google Gulf of America thing basically lit the fuse, and now they're just blowing on it to make it go faster. So they're riding the wave of this frustration and anger, and that's just the way it is. You get the clicks. Maybe it's that simple. Either way, and again, the headline, and the headline is almost never written by the author of the article. So the journalist or reporter or whoever is in the byline, the headline and subhead are very rarely written by that person. It's usually the editor, the editorial staff will come up with headlines that will, guess what, grab your attention. So it's entirely possible that this is a purely an editor move to get the clicks, and that the author, the reporter on this article, not a part of it. But the fact that this has appeared in so many outlets using this strategy is troubling. Either way, if an emotionally charged and reactionary crowd is energized, their wisdom would be questionable, of course. So if you were to survey a crowd about something, they might be, wow, and I hate Google. It's hard to say. It's probably being manipulated or is susceptible to manipulation, this crowd would be. And perhaps this is a part of the plan to overcome any rational response or reasoned explanations to make maximal use of this energy for some purpose yet to be determined, though we could guess. So if you can keep a crowd angry, if you can keep a crowd divided, this is a strategy that goes back hundreds or thousands of years when it comes to attacking other villages, other communities, other cities, other empires. You want to keep people off their footing. You want to keep them unstable. So keeping people angry, keeping them confused, frustrated, divided, this is all part of the game, I think. So then you'd have to wonder what is the crowd thinking? What information will you get from them as it is being shaped by this overt strategy to keep people confused or at least riled up? And that can make it all tricky. And the flood the zone stuff, I think, is probably something to keep an eye on in general. I think it makes it very difficult to figure out what's really happening if there's news every day. And and plus the news can be dominated. The news, quote unquote, whatever that is, can be dominated and driven by this flooding effect, this overwhelming stream, fire hose of events, announcements, quotes, statements, position changes, executive orders, etc. And no one can really deep dive, and no one can correct, adjust, draw a picture, make connections, make links, figure out what the terrain looks like, and so on. So I'm curious, or I'm wondering, I guess, how this fits into that. But it does seem to come out of nowhere. If suddenly Google did this, and then Google says, no, we didn't. We did it months ago and not for that reason. And it's not exactly as you're describing it, but that doesn't matter. So it's just adding energy to this, the tumult, as I said. So it'll be interesting to see how this goes. Like I said, just to one last time, I am not a fan of Google. I don't like a lot of the things that they do. I do use Google Calendar, but I also am familiar with Calendar, CalDave, and iCalendar Stream. So the calendar inner workings. This is too easy to fix. It's an opportunity for someone or organizations or groups or individuals to say, okay, fine, we'll maintain our own calendar, and we'll even use Outlook or Google iCalendar or some other service, or we'll do a WordPress, whatever, plugin, whatever thingy. And so there's really no reason to, this is like a pointless facet to the gem that is Google, which is one of the Silicon Valley tech companies that is under fire now. On the one hand, being supportive of the current administration through action, and on the other, being culturally perhaps on the other side of the spectrum, but it's hard to say. Who knows? Anyway, I just found this kind of interesting as this is unfolding, but the media landscape as it is today and in general will be interesting to watch over the next several years. And the crowd, the people that are consuming the media from the old sources, the new media, the non-traditional media, the independent media, it'll be interesting to see how all this comes together. That's where I'm going to leave it for today. Kept it reasonably brief. I'm seeing about 33 minutes. I will truncate silence to remove any lengthy pauses and probably get it under 30 minutes. And that's where I'm going to leave it for today. Don't forget to check out Buy Me an Update on buymeacoffee.com/DanHugo Mondays. That's it. Cheers.